5, 4, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. All right, I've got a story time for you. This is a Shakespearean play called A Midsummer Night's Dream, and this is set way back in ancient Athens. So we have a couple, Hermia and Lysander, and they are in love with each other. And then let me introduce to you Demetrius. This is Demetrius, and he is in love with Lysander's girlfriend, Hermia. But Hermia does not like Demetrius. And Hermia's father, however, Hermia's father wants her to marry Demetrius, and she doesn't want to. So Hermia and her boyfriend Lysander go into the forest. They sneak away into the forest to have some boyfriend-girlfriend time. Then let me introduce you to Helena. She loves Demetrius, but Demetrius does not like Helena. He loves Hermia, and he is all brokenhearted over her. He wants to be with her, but he cannot be with her. So Lysander and Hermia are in the forest. Demetrius goes into the forest to find Hermia, and then Helena goes into the forest to find Demetrius. So meanwhile, in the forest, there is a group of actors practicing for a play. The play is terrible. The actors are terrible. And there's one actor, his name is Nick Bottom, and he is the worst of all the actors, but he thinks he is the best of all the actors. In fact, he thinks he's so good, he thinks he should read everybody's part, not just his. So he should be all the characters in the play, not just one. All right. Meanwhile, there is also the fairy king and the fairy queen. The fairy king is arguing with the fairy queen. They've both been having affairs and they're having a fight. So King Oberon, the king of the fairies, has a plan. There's a trick that he wants to play on his wife, and he gets his fairy henchmen to carry out this evil plan. Or not, it's not an evil plan, but it's a mischievous plan. So he tells Puck to squeeze the nectar of this flower into the eyes of sleeping Titania. By the way, King Oberon and Queen Titania. So he tells him to squeeze the nectar from the plant into the eyes of Queen Titania while she's asleep, and then arrange it so that the first thing that she sees when she wakes up is the most disgusting or revolting thing, and then she will fall in love with that thing. And then she will fall in love with that thing, and oh, won't that be funny? All right. Meanwhile, the king sees Helena and Demetrius, and he sees that Helena is in love with Demetrius, and Demetrius does not love her back. And he thinks he should play matchmaker. He thinks that they're a cute couple together. They should be together. So King Oberon squeezes the nectar of the plant into the Queen Titania's face. All right. So King Oberon squeezes the nectar of the plant into the eyes of the sleeping Queen Titania. And then Puck mistakes Lysander for Demetrius. So he thinks he is squeezing the nectar of the plant into the eyes of Demetrius, but it's really Lysander. And he arranges for Lysander to see Helena when he first wakes up. And so now Lysander is in love with Helena, not his girlfriend. But Helena is not interested in Lysander. Meanwhile, also in the forest is the group of actors, and Puck is watching them act, and he sees the obnoxiousness of Nick Bottom, and he hears the horrible acting from Nick Bottom, and so he transforms Nick Bottom's head into the head of a donkey. And when that happens, the rest of the actors run away, being scared of Nick Bottom and what's happened to him. Nick Bottom doesn't realize what's happened to him, and he starts walking through the forest, going over his lines and singing songs. In fact, the songs that he sings are horrible. Anyways, he is passing by Queen Titania, and she wakes up and sees Nick Bottom and falls in love with him. All right, and so and then the rest of the play is more shenanigans with the couples getting mixed up, and it's a quite a funny play. But long story short, there's happy endings for all the couples. All right, so we're gonna go and look at this painting here. This has the same scale as a history painting. Fuseli really wanted to develop history painting beyond the retelling of events. So he wanted to go beyond the traditional history painting, which was, events in history. It was biblical stories or it was mythological stories. And this story comes from literature, so it doesn't really fit in with a history painting, although it's the size of a history painting. And it even kind of looks like a Baroque, it has the Baroque tenorism and it looks theatrical like Baroque, but the nature of this makes it romanticism. Fuseli wanted to produce paintings based on literary and fantasy themes. So Titania is instructing her fairies to do the bidding of Bottom. And this is all fantasy. Titania looks like she is having a lot of fun with Nick Bottom. And the fairies all have mischievous looks. But here's the theatricalness of this picture. Uh, the the space is very shallow. It looks like they're on the stage and there's a backdrop right behind them, so we don't see very far back into space. And then it looks like stage lighting, these spotlights on the actors where the background is quite dark. And then we have a couple of figures looking at the viewer like audience or like actors will catch the eye of audience members. And then here's some of the fantasyness of this. This giant moth on this girl's head, and the old man held on a leash by a fairy with a mischievous look. And then whatever creepy creature this thing is. And then she has the same kind of pose as Leonardo da Vinci's Leda and the Swan. All right, another story for you comes from another piece of literature called Paradise Lost by John Milton. And this was written in 1688. So by this time, it was about 150 to 200 years old. So we start with Lucifer. This is before Lucifer becomes the devil, and he is an angel up in heaven. And he is one of God's favorite angels. But when Jesus shows up, and by the way, this is all before there are men and women on the earth. This is before God creates Adam. So when Jesus shows up, Lucifer gets very jealous. And so he throws this hissy fit and challenges God. And so he challenges God. And not only that, but he gets a bunch of his other angels and he leads a a coup against God. And that doesn't work out too well for the rebellious angels and Lucifer. They get knocked down to earth, not only down to earth, but down below earth. They get knocked so hard. So here is Lucifer landing on earth along with the rebellious angels, and they create this place called Pandemonium. And so this is important for our next artwork. This one's called The Shepherd's Dream, and it's based on Paradise Lost by John Milton, what I just told you about. Paradise Lost explores the realms of the imagination, dreams, and the supernatural. This is the moment in Milton's poem that compares the fallen angels in the hall of Pandemonium, which I just showed you guys in the story, in hell to the fairies who bewitch a passing peasant with the sound of their music and dancing. The fairies are shown above the sleeping shepherd, with one fairy touching the shepherd with a dream inducing wand. In the right hand corner is the queen of the fairies, who is the one who reveals this to sleeping men their unutterable, draw. In the right hand corner is the queen of the fairies, who is in the right hand corner is the queen of the fairies, who is the one who reveals to the sleeping men their unutterable desires. The interpretation given by Fuseli confirms an erotic fantasy which is reminiscent of his erotic drawings. He used his powers of imagination to make these paintings, and he moved away from the traditional genre of history paintings. So he had, like again with the last one, he has the look of a history painting, but it's very far from a history painting. With history paintings, viewers judge the painting on its theatrical or biblical accuracy, and this painting was one of a series. All right, I got this. The last painting by Fuseli I want to show you is a night hag visiting the Lapland witches. And this is also from Paradise Lost. And it shows a witch distracted by the arrival of the night hag. And Milton describes the night hag. Let's see. All right, the night hag is lured here by the smell of the infant. They're going to sacrifice this infant. And so it almost kind of reminds me of the sacrifice of Isaac. However, this is the sacrifice of Isaac was a story about God commanding the sacrifice. But this is about a witch's sacrifice, and witchcraft is very anti-biblical and anti-Christian. So this is a very blasphemous painting to have this similar theme, and you can also see a similar theme here of Pietà and this witch and the infant, where you have a dead offspring or a nearly dead offspring, and this shows a lot of blasphemy, and this would definitely not have been okay for a history painting, but it has the same kind of look as a history painting. And that's where the difference you get with this romanticism. It veers away from history painting and traditional subject matter with the subject matter of fantasy, among other things.